Hi, I am Peggy Thomas, and I am the Chief Connections Officer for the 70273 project. And I'm very excited to introduce you today to Jeanne Hewell-Chambers, who is the founder of this project. She's going to answer some questions and tell you a little bit more about it. So welcome, Jeanne.
Thank you.
What is the 70273 project, basically?
I knew you'd start with that. Between January 1940 and August 1941, under a top secret organization called Action T4, Nazis murdered 70,273 physically and mentally disabled people just because they were different. That's it. Didn't matter where they worshipped. It didn't matter if they worshipped. It just mattered that they had a disability that made them different. And so we are gathering 70,273 quilt blocks from around the world to commemorate every one of those people that they murdered in that 20-something month span.
It's pretty phenomenal. So where did you get the idea?
Well, there I was, just sitting on the sofa watching a documentary on World War II, because that's what we do when my daughter comes to visit. She loves military history. She travels around the country as Betty Grable, entertaining World War II veterans. And now that there are not so many of those, she educates their families about World War II and that period of time. So we were watching a World War II documentary, and I was stitching the drawings of my mentally disabled sister-in-law, Nancy. And so my brain would kind of focus on the documentary, and then it would go back to what I was stitching, and then it would go back to the documentary. It happened to go back to the documentary just as they spent 2 or 3 sentences talking about something called Action T4. And so this big, fat, crazy idea whooshed in from out of nowhere, landed on my shoulder, whispered in my ear, and said, pay close attention, because this is how you're going to be spending the next several years of your life and all of your children's inheritance. And you are going to gather 70,273 quilt blocks from around the world and commemorate every one of those people that they murdered, calling them life unworthy of life, or calling them useless eaters. You know better, and most of the world today knows better, but we can't let that happen again, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to bring it back.
Well, I think that the viewers can see behind us that there are sets of red X's on white backgrounds. So can you tell us why there are 2 red X's, why there's a pair in each block?
I can and I will. But first I want to tell you, I just said a while ago, we're going to bring it back. We're not bringing back Action T4. No. We're bringing back this dark part of history to the forefront. So many people don't know about Action T4 anyway, because it was a top secret, and it was right at the beginning of the Holocaust. In fact, they invented the gas chambers, Action T4, to murder these 70,273 people, invented the gas chambers. At the public close of Action T4, they disassembled the gas chambers and shipped them to the concentration camps. And so that's what I mean by bringing it back. Please don't send me hate mail. Okay.
One of the purposes is to make sure that we don't bring it back. That's why we're doing this, but go ahead.
That's right. You said it better. I should be interviewing you. And I think your question was why 2 red X's?
Yes.
Okay. See, I still have a little bit of memory. The 2 red X's. Action T4 was a physician-run organization. They sent questionnaires out into the community, to the community physicians and community hospitals and institutions. And when the forms came back, these physicians read the forms. They never met the person they were evaluating. They never talked to the family doctors. They never talked to the family. They simply read words on a page of questions that they had created for their own purpose. And so the background of you didn't ask me this, but I'm giving you, it's Laney up, this is more than we asked for. So the background of every block is white or slightly off-white to represent the paper of the medical forms, their questionnaires, the medical questionnaires, which is all the information they use to make their life and death evaluations. And then once 2 of 3 assessing physicians put a red X at the bottom of the form, the person was murdered. Usually within a matter of hours. They created a whole bus system so they could quickly and efficiently transport these people to what turned out to be not a punch and cookies celebration, but their death. So that's why the 2 red X's. Each pair of red X's commemorates one person.
Okay. Now, why does it matter? I have all kinds of other questions that are not on this list, but why does it matter? Why did it matter to you?
Sorry. sorry. This one always gets me because it matters. Obviously, it matters to my heart a lot because tears are the language of the heart. It matters because my sister-in-law, Nancy, for example, can't brush her own teeth. She can't put on her own shoes. She'll never drive a car. And yet, she is one of the wisest women I know, and she is joy personified. She has a vocabulary of about 12 words. 6 of them are love, so that's not all bad. So that it matters to me because I can't imagine a world without her in it. It matters to me because I have friends with Down syndrome, and I can't fathom how anybody could consider them useless eaters. It matters because of all the students that I taught in 4th grade who had special needs. They couldn't learn by opening a book and reading and answering the questions on page 43. It matters to me because I have authority issues, and I cannot stand the thought of one drug-addicted, self-important, emotional thug, bully, saying that somebody is not perfect because they're different. So those are probably the top reasons that it matters to me.
And those of us who have gotten to know Jeanne know that there's a lot of other reasons too, but then the other interesting thing is that our tribe of people who have gotten involved with the 70273 project, many of us have someone in our lives who would have received 2 red X's. So we've all also gotten to know Nancy a little bit through Jeanne, which has been phenomenal, and Nancy brings a lot of joy to our lives. So, all right, what is happening here locally with the project?
Here, like today here? Okay, today we're having a work day. Yay! We've got all these people who came because it matters to them, and we'll be asking them why it matters to them. And so they are doing what we're doing today. We're focusing on today is getting bundles ready to go out. I have calls from 60 bundles. A bundle is a group of blocks that will be turned into a quilt. And so people volunteer to piece and quilt these for us, and it starts with well, it doesn't start with, but what we're doing today is preparing the bundles. And not we, because I'm up here talking, but Carol and Kevin and Jessica and Patty and, tell me how to say your name, Meera, and I haven't met Raisa. Hey, I'm just meeting her. Hey, I'm Jeanne. And so they're preparing these bundles that will soon be winging their way to volunteer piecers and quilters who will turn them into quilts. So that's what we're doing today. This is sort of the home hub here in Peachtree City in Fayetteville. Because it's where I'm from, and it's where I've lived so long. Well, not so long, I'm not that old, but I've lived for a while here, and so this is where the physical things that have to be physical, you have to touch. That all happens here, thanks to volunteers like y'all.
And we appreciate the volunteers. Thank you guys for being here. So one of the questions that came up today was, where did these blocks come from? And they came from all over the world. They get shipped here or mailed to Jeanne from all over the world. But tell us a little bit more about what types of things are happening in other parts of the world.
Oh, good question. Yeah, we have more than 124 countries involved right now. And when I say involved, I mean they are making blocks, they are making quilts, they are staging exhibits. Right now, we have exhibits that are happening all throughout the world in early of next year. This will probably date the video, but that's okay. So we are right at the end of 2017 as we are standing here talking to you. And in January of 2018, we have 2 cathedrals in the UK, Rochester and Durham Cathedral, who asked us a year ago to fill them to the spires, as I say, with 70,273 quilts. Quilts, not that many quilts. Quilts from the 70,273 project. And so that's going to be happening in the Channel Islands. That, as far as I know, every parish in the Channel Islands, which is the UK Channel Islands, not the one off California, they've made quilts, and those will be on exhibit at the end of January for Holocaust Memorial Day. And then we have an exhibit coming up in Germany, and we have lots, that's in June of 2018, and we have lots of exhibits in the United States that there's just a list that's just too long, and we're always looking for more places to get these quilts out.
I've had people ask me or tell me, I don't quilt, so how can I be involved in this project if I don't quilt?
Okay, if you're here today volunteering, how many of you are quilters? Just so you know, there's not a single hand that went up. Okay. We have one who knows how to stitch, and I am a quilter, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to have ever made a quilt to get involved with this. You just have to have a heart that says, I want to be a part of this. This is important to me. And there are all different things you can do. Everybody can stitch 2 red X's onto a piece of fabric. You may think you can't, but trust me, you can. Like I tell people, we are commemorating the perfectly imperfect people. So there's no perfect in our world. There's just perfectly imperfect. So you don't have to worry about being perfect when you put your 2 red X's down. You can be here doing things like preparing these bundles to go out in the mail. You can be telling other people about it. You can be encouraging groups and families. We have a quilt right over here that was made by a family who lives off the coast of Washington State, on an island off the coast of Washington State. So you can tell other people and encourage them to get involved, and you can always donate. You can always donate money. It takes a lot of money, as you can imagine, to send these quilts across the pond, as we say, and even to get them across the United States, back and forth. And so that's something that you could better address. But so there are lots of different ways to get involved without having to make a quilt.
There are a lot of ways, and that reminded me, we were just in the International Quilt Festival with a very big exhibit, and just the cost to get the quilts there and the special handling of the quilts was exorbitant. So we appreciate our donors who have been sponsoring us for that. So what happens when the quilts are all finished? I know we've already started having some exhibits, but what do you think will happen when they're all done, and about how many will there be?
Another good question. Well, according to the engineer, who's my husband, he calculates, because he does math, I don't. I do 2. Math that involves 2 and red fabric and X's. He calculates that we'll have about 1,200 quilts when all 70,273 people are commemorated. And what will we do with them? Well, they're just going to travel the world as far as there's calendar. As far as the calendar can see, they'll travel the world to commemorate these people, to champion and celebrate the people with learning disabilities, with other physical disabilities, with special needs, who live among us today, and to help showcase their abilities and quit talking about disabilities, but talking about abilities and how differences are good. And then also to take steps to make sure that we tell people about this dark spot in history, and we take steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. Step 1 is letting people know that this did happen.
You're an educator at heart, and that's what this is about largely. So, all right, any last words to tell people that you want them to know about the 70273 project?
Just thank you for watching and for being a part of it. If you've already been a part, thank you so much. Thank you. I could not do all this by myself. I would like to thank Joyce Beverly from Fayette Woman for standing behind the camera and providing the microphone and videotaping this today. All the volunteers who are here today, the volunteers who've been here on other days and who will be here on future days, thank you for stepping up and taking such a huge role in the project. And if you want to be a part of it, or you want to do something besides make blocks, if you've made blocks and now you're ready to move on and do something else, visit the website. That's www.the70273project.org. That's www.the70273project.org. And there's lots of information there, and there's also email addresses that you can email and say, I want to do something. Or better still, just email me and say, do you need this, because I'd like to do this.
Thank you, Jeanne. It's been just a treasure working with you, and I look forward to being with the quilts for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.